fancy school and a fancy degree, a terrible interlude for the war, of which he never spoke, and now a clean bright office in Edinburgh, clients coming in and out all day. For Leigh there had been a job as a secretary, a flat with 2 girls from work who were nice enough, but interested mostly in each other. 2 years of never knowing what to say or what to do, what to wear or where to go. Then this, getting sacked and falling behind on her rent, her flatmates kicking her out, a series of increasingly decrepit flats. A fight with Sam, and then another, an end to the lunches they had gotten every other week. A dream about her mother, and a bitterness lingering in her chest for days. This is what you left us for, this dark and dirty city, these shops and this noise instead of us. Sam had never set foot in her flat, but he had sent a cheque or 2 to keep her afloat. Neither of them wanted to worry their father. The last time Leigh turned up at Sam's office to ask him to get lunch, he'd been furious. "Interrupting my work, Leigh, and dressed like that." And then a telephone call from Tom McAllister. "Come home. Your father's been in an accident. We can't get hold of Sam." And her last banknotes spent on the ferry ride home, and everyone's eyes on her threadbare coat and the whispers that swirled around her like a breeze when she walked through town. Yesterday, Leigh had been trying to patch one of the dozen holes in the barn roof, and as she stood on the shingles, she looked up at the hills and down at the grass, and wondered whether it might be all right to fall. The boat disappeared into the grey morning. There'd been a dream, Leigh realised as she watched it go, and that was what had woken her with cheeks cold and damp from tears she didn't remember crying. A dream she'd had before. The sea, a blurry, smudgy figure wading into the waves. 3 crows perched on the rocky shore. Nothing but a series of discreet and half-formed images. The minister dropped her off at home in the sleek green car that Leigh had always thought he looked too tall for. After the funeral, Kate McClare had taken Leigh by the elbow and asked her to come for breakfast, but Leigh shook her head. She wanted to be alone. When they arrived, the minister patted her hand kindly and said, "Come to church, Leigh. It'll be good for you." And then Leigh clambered into the cold air again, and Maisie leapt from the back, and the minister pulled away down the driveway, gravel crunching beneath the wheels. Leigh watched the light dance on the glossy car as it departed. Her father had always eyed it jealously, curious hands itching to bury themselves in the engine, wrap themselves around the steering wheel. In the corner of the yard, Graham's car sat rusting under canvas. Leigh couldn't bring herself to drive it. Graham had taught her how when she was 14. "I'll take you out where the only thing you could hurt are sheep. Just you and me. It'll be fun. Your brother was always a terrible driver. Don't tell him I said that." By which time she had already been able to take apart the engine and reassemble it with her eyes closed. It wasn't the same car she had learnt on, not any more. The year after she'd moved away, Graham had sold that first car and bought a new one, a terrible extravagance that he never managed to explain. She went inside to make tea. The floorboards had always creaked, but now they sang discordantly. The corners had always been dark and shadowy, but now it seemed that something might be lurking in them. A thick dust coated the counter, broken by the jetsam of desiccated herbs that had fallen from the bunches hanging from the ceiling. This room did not look like a room that anyone lived in. This room looked abandoned and dirty and sad. And all of it hers now, presumably. Leigh put out her hand to the wall to steady herself. Maisie circled around Leigh's feet, whining plaintively, big eyes looking up at her with reproach, as though to say, "Pull yourself together." Leigh placed a hand on the dog's head. "You're right," she said to Maisie. "Let's go." Moving was better. The pumping of her legs and pedals, the whipping of the wind against her cheeks, the panting of Maisie's breath as she bounded beside the bicycle. Sea mist hung in the air, dusting Leigh's face and collecting in her eyelashes. Soon the grass and grazing sheep gave way to smoother pavement and a low stone wall, the church spire reaching towards the sky in the distance. A row of 3 crows on the uneven stone wall along the road, jet black. Leigh squeezed the brakes hard, stuttering to a stop. Maisie stopped too, and her tail dropped between her legs.